Hemos podido escuchar a Jet Emerson, el padre del concepto del vended value, un concepto que ha inspirado a muchísimos de los agentes que hoy en día están impulsando proyectos, la inversión de impacto, el social business. De hecho, fruto de la filosofía con la que ha estado trabajando durante estos últimos 20 años, se han impulsado nuevos instrumentos de financiación, como por ejemplo el Blended Finance. Acordaros, ayer estuvimos hablando de ello en una mesa muy interesante, donde destacamos que existen 3 pilares muy importantes para poder desarrollar toda esta filosofía. Uno de ellos es la adicionalidad, la necesidad de que todos estos instrumentos sirvan para dar respuesta a problemas, a retos que de otra forma no encontrarían solución. La asimetría, el poder tener tanto inversores catalíticos, que son aquellos que están dispuestos a renunciar a parte de retorno económico y a subir más riesgo, con otros inversores mucho más financieros, y todo para conseguir realmente captar mucho más capital hacia el impacto. Pero, Guillermo, ¿crees que lo conseguiremos? ¿Crees que puede ser posible combinar estos inversores más financieros que buscan impacto con estos inversores más filántropos?
Bueno, pues yo creo que sí. De hecho, esto es un poco el Venture Philanthropy, ¿no? De alguna manera, y es la mesa que vamos a tener a continuación, que nos van a informar y a explicar lo que es el Venture Philanthropy. Y para ello pues contamos con unos invitados de renombre, como son Christopher Carney, Luis de Melo, Sophie Fojour, y estarán todos ellos moderados por nuestra compañera Cristina San Salvador, que es una especialista del Venture Philanthropy, y seguro que esta mesa pues va a tener mucho interés y va a ser va a aclarar muchos conceptos. Pues sin más, vamos a dar paso ya a nuestra compañera Cristina. Cristina, the floor is yours.
Hi everybody, hope you are having a really good week and you are learning a lot during this Impact Forum week. I am glad to welcome you to this session that is called Venture Philanthropy, Business plus Philanthropy. As you all know, the real revolution of the coming years will be based on pioneering alliances that use the power of markets instead of being seduced by them. We think that venture philanthropy is one of these practices and strategies that are going to help us to achieve these joint goals and are essential for testing, scaling, and financing early-stage social enterprise solutions that maybe not are the most scalable and profitable, but have a clear impact and moderate profitability potential. So we will have the next 30 minutes to talk deeply in this concept and these ideas, but please let me present the speakers we have today first. So welcome, the 3 of you. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. First of all, we have Christopher Carney. He is a consultant specialized in philanthropy, foundations, and fundraising. He is the author and co-author of some books on research in fundraising. He also teaches at the University of Barcelona and is a regular speaker in international conferences. So thank you, Chris, for being with us today. Then we have Luis de Melo. Luis is the director of Gulbenkian Foundation in Portugal, one of the pioneering foundations in Europe, and he's also a board member of MACE and of European Venture Philanthropy Association. And finally, we have Sophie. Sophie is the head of France and European Corporate Initiative in European Venture Philanthropy Association, and she is also contributing in the National Advisory Board for Impact Investing in France. So thank you very much, Sophie, and thank you very much again for the 3 of you for being with me today. I am Cristina San Salvador. I work in S2B as an expansion and program development manager, and I am leading this venture philanthropy approach inside our foundation too. So thank you again, and maybe we will start. Sophie, I would like to start with you because you work in the EDPA, and I know that you have been working in this concept of venture philanthropy for some years. So maybe you could explain us a little bit about the concept, what is venture philanthropy, why is it different from impact investment, and any insights you want to share with us today.
Very good. Very good. Good morning, everybody, and very happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. SHIP2B is a close partner to EVPA. So yes, venture philanthropy actually is combining the spirit of the philanthropist and the mindset of the investor. And where does this set of words comes from? 15 years ago, given the magnitude of the societal challenge ahead, a few private equity partners identified the need to revisit the classic way of practicing philanthropy. And they got inspired by the venture capital. So venture philanthropy comes from venture capital. Typically, they use three core practices: tailored financing, addressing the financial need of the investees through grants, equity, or debt. Second is non-financial support, which is key. And three, impact measurement and management. And which investor are we talking about? We're talking about individual foundations, social impact investing fund, or corporate, listed corporates who are engaged in impact through the foundation, the fund, an impact investing fund, or an accelerator, an incubator. And why we think it's important? Well, the beauty of these investors for impact is that three main reasons. I will simplify it a bit just for you to have to capture this sense of what an investor for impact is. One is it provides passion capital. Second, those investors are willing to take risks that most other investors are not prepared to take. And that means that they can test and scale new solutions. Thirdly, often social organizations have a solution to solve a pressing societal issue, but often they need resources. They need funding, human resources, capacity building, business soft skills sometimes. And here the non-financial support is making a big difference because the investor is able to support the social organization on all those fronts. And yes, you mentioned impact investing, and yes, social investment and impact investing, they are both creating financial return and also societal impact, but there are two main differences. One, the social investor can take higher risk for social impact to the benefit of the social impact rather than the impact investor, because the impact investor needs to guarantee a certain level of financial return to his clients. Second, the impact investor usually does not provide the non-financial support to the organization. So that's really the main difference.
Okay, thank you, Sophie. I think we have a clearer idea of the concept. And now I would like to ask Luis. Luis, I think in your foundation you have been working around this topic in practice. So I would like to ask you about your experience, about the road you have followed, about the learnings. Maybe you want to share a little bit with us.
Hi everyone, really a pleasure to be here. Thank you, SHIP2B, for the kind invitation. You are really an inspiration for, I think, all of us. So let me share sort of the journey that the Gulbenkian Foundation has done in this impact investing arena. Back in 2013, we were looking at what was happening in the Anglo-Saxon world and the rise of impact investing, and we thought that maybe we could develop something similar here in Portugal, not just the sake of developing impact investing for the sake of it, but actually because it can be a means to unlock more resources to the complex social challenges that we are facing and best support the solutions that we need to fund in order to solve that challenges. And in order to develop this ecosystem, we thought that we had to develop three different areas. One, of course, is capital, and how can we bring more capital to this market, and we need to work with investors that are willing to include impact in the investment case. It's also a matter of developing skills how can we ensure that the entrepreneurs have not only access to capital, but actually all the capabilities that they need in order for their solutions to flourish, and also data. And data is critical in order to ensure more confidence and trust that these sort of solutions work. So this was our framework. And basically, the Gulbenkian worked in two different streams. One, acting as an investor and leading by example. So we were the main investor in 4 social impact bonds in Portugal, and the first social impact bonds that we had in Portugal. We also invested in the first impact fund in Portugal, developed by a venture that we were supporting, Maize. And of course, more and more, our traditional funding and granting was evolving, including not only funding, but also non-financial support. And Sophia has mentioned that the critical role that non-financial support has in order for these solutions to flourish. And that was our work as an investor, so to say, and a player in investment. But we also wanted to be market builders. And we worked closely with the government in order to ensure that we could funnel some European funds to develop this ecosystem in Portugal, and that was possible. We established a task force, the National Advisory Board, the Portuguese Advisory Board for impact investing in Portugal, bringing all the stakeholders involved from public, private, academia, to establish a roadmap for this ecosystem to be built in Portugal. And last but not least, we invested in terms of core funding in the creation of an intermediary. Actually, it was our first move, but actually a critical one. And all this journey that the foundation has done is taking the best of these two organizations. One that has resources and sort of a convening power to bring other stakeholders to this table, and of course a more technical and expert team, this intermediary Maize, that is playing a critical role in order to build these investment opportunities. Because in this sector, we don't simply find investment opportunities, we need to build them, and intermediaries like Maize and like Ship2B play a critical role on that. What have we learned so far? Maybe just 3 highlights. One is that the quick wins are crucial, and we need to find that quick wins, particularly on the early days of this market, in order to showcase that this is not like simply concepts, this is for real and is happening, and achieve results. We need also to find market champions across all the stakeholders, because they are the ones who can make a difference in the organizations they are working with, and particularly in the early days, they play actually a decisive role in order to unlock those opportunities. And also, of course, the need to adapt to the local context, and realizing that it's not like impact investing is not like a silver bullet that works the same way in the different regions, and we need to adapt it to the local context. And I think in a nutshell, that's what we have done so far. Thank you.
Congratulations, you have done a lot of things. That's why I presented you as a leading foundation in Europe, I think, in helping the ecosystem growth. That's why we invited you. For me, it's amazing to see the work you have done the last years. And now, Chris, I think you have been working with some philanthropists during the last years, and I think you have tried to change the classical approach from charity to venture philanthropy. I am sure that this is not so easy, so maybe you can explain with us how you address it.
Thank you, Christina, and thank you very much for inviting me to participate in the conference today. It's a great event, and it's fantastic to bring all these people together to talk about venture philanthropy. And yes, it's true. I mean, here in Europe, there are many philanthropists who want to continue doing their philanthropy in the traditional way and want to continue acting in a purely charitable way. But there are a few whose minds are changing, and I thought maybe I could tell the story of a couple of people I know who might illustrate how that works. So the first is, he's a young man. He's made a modest fortune in the information technology field. He worked really, really hard to build up his company. He lived that very sort of high stress life that young executives lead. And at one point, a couple of years ago, he took a break. He went to the Amazon for a few weeks and got lost in the Amazon, discovered traditional cultures, traditional healing. I think he went on, well, he describes it as a spiritual journey. It's certainly a deeply emotional journey for him, and came back convinced that he could do something different with his philanthropy. And what he's done is he's set up a social enterprise in the jungle, in which he is offering the facilities of the jungle to high-stressed executives who want to take a complete break from their ordinary lives, and who want to reconnect with nature. And behind it is a theory of change. He's developed a different theory of change around his philanthropy. The theory that if he can draw in enough really senior people from business and give them this experience, then they'll go back to their work and change their businesses, the lives of the people they employ, and so on. And so he's had this double wake-up moment. The first wake-up moment of saying, I want to do something, I want to make some change. And the second of working out a theory of change which creates a sustainable social enterprise, but one which drives change in other places. My second sort of description or story is of another gentleman who, like many people, his dad had set up an investment business, and when Dad passed on, he took over the reins of the investment business. And I think in that moment, him and his partner really didn't want to just live their lives making money. They wanted to do something different. So they looked to philanthropy for that, and they could have looked for traditional philanthropy. The couple was interested in working with the poorest people, and so they focused on Africa, and they could have simply given money in a charitable way there. But they were clever people, they were investment people, and they put their investment minds to work and set up a foundation which currently gives loans and guarantees to small microfinance organizations in Africa. And in doing that, it provides the microfinance organizations with a financial guarantee, which enables those organizations to go to commercial lenders and get attractive rates for loans, and then re-lend that money to small farmers, women setting up artisan businesses and so on in Africa. And in doing this, they've had, again, the same kind of double wake-up moment of saying, I want to do something to change the world, but here's a way I can do it which will enable me to do it sustainably, because of course that 11 million that they offer as guarantees and loans, it very, very largely gets repaid. So they're not throwing money into an open bucket. They're able to recycle that money and use it again and again for social impact. And I think that motivation of knowing that their money is going to be used and used again and used again and used again is something that really drives them forward.
Yes, I think you all agree that is putting social impact in the center, but at the same time trying to think in a sustainable way. And sometimes we have talked between us about this, and you have underlined that there is hope because the younger generations are more and more concerned about that. And I have listened to your second example, and I think it's a good example of this. Yes. Okay, and Sophie, I think that you have an initiative inside the EBPA that is called Investors for Impact, and you have like a manifesto and some principles, and maybe you can share with us, because I think it's something that is related with what we are talking about.
Thank you, Christina. Indeed, and to understand what this manifesto is about, I'd like, and please slide, I'd like to explain the positioning of the investors for impact and the investors with impact, because there are two different profiles of investors complementing each other. And it's very interesting to understand that in the impact of the ecosystem. So here on this slide, you see the spectrum of impact. On the left side, traditional grant making. On the right-hand side, mainstream finance with social responsible investments. And at EVPA, we identified those two groups, the pink large box, which is representing investing for impact, and this purple box representing the investors with impact. So the pink one, very much represented by foundation and social impact funds that you can see at the bottom of the slide, their role in the ecosystem is really, again, to test and scale solutions to social issues and support investees that have not market outlet business model yet, while the investors with impact, on the other hand, their role in the ecosystem is really to scale and accelerate the scaling of proven business model. And on the left side, you see we're talking about billion euro. On the right hand side, we're talking about trillion euro. It's really two different worlds at the extreme. And again, very complementary approach. Next slide, please. Oops. Yeah. So exactly, Christina, to quickly answer your question, indeed at EVPA, we noticed that these investors for impact community, they share a common practice, and which reflects their DNA. And as you can see on the slide, they're sharing 10 common practices, and I will highlight particularly 4, which in the context of the crisis today are particularly interesting. One, they put the final beneficiary at the center of the solution. Second, they take risks that most others are not prepared to take. Principle number 6, they provide extensive enough financial support. And last but not least, it's very much the topic of the session today and part of this Alliance Day in the forum. They are naturally collaborative. And this is very interesting. And this is the reason why we say that, more than ever, those investors for impact community are playing a vital role in the current crisis, because they really can adjust the financing term of support to social organizations. They help with the non-financial support, being able to help the social organization to pivot, namely digitally, which is so crucial, so important. And yes, in terms of collaboration, we saw a number of examples where those investors for impact, they collaborate with the public sector, with with civil society. They collaborate also with investors with impact, definitely. So we see that as very remarkable.
Okay.
It's very much a systemic change approach, for sake of efficiency and really saving time. The urgency of the situation triggers and accelerates, and the crisis actually is a catalyst to accelerate this system change approach, which is really the most efficient way to address complex and complex needs to address societal issue. It's a very holistic approach, and this is really what we need: collaboration among those different profile of actors.
Thank you very much, Sophie. I agree a lot with you. That's why I congratulated before Luis, because they have implementing all of this in Portugal. And I would like to come back to Luis again and ask you if you think that this new movement of investors for impact is contrary on the normal movement of impact investors, or do you think they are complementary? What is your opinion about this possible tension between these two new trends?
I think they are complementary, but I think in order to better think about it, I think we should also frame this not only like in terms of the supply side, so having investors for impact versus investors with impact, and actually looking at the sectors they are funding and the demand side of these types of funding, and where do we see some gaps, and if there are gaps, that's where we need to focus more. And if we look at the sectors that are being funded through these different mechanisms, we see in the more like investing with impact side, actually some sectors that were even before being traditionally funded by commercial investors. So we are talking about housing, we are talking about energy, of course, with a twist, more focused on social housing, or for instance in energy, renewable energy. And those sectors, there are track records in terms of investments, yields. So that's a sector that is working, and it's working well. If you look at the sectors that are being funded via investing for impact, we are talking about health, we are talking about education, we are talking about tackling unemployment. And actually, those are sectors that now more than ever are critical for the recovery of the economy that we need to embrace, and are the sectors that the funding gaps are the greater. So I think it's not just a matter of, on the side of the investor, in which side I want to be with, is like if I want to be an investor with impact or an investor for impact, is actually for the investors to think about in what sector they really need to make a change, and in what sector they feel the need is greater. And I think now we have this opportunity to really showcase and unleash the power of investing for impact, because the needs are there. But of course, we need greater cases in order for showcase that this is possible. Because if you look at now the recovery plans that we are having both at the national and the European level, we see that a lot of sectors are the sectors that the investing for impact is working on for quite a long time and now, but still the authorities don't recognize the importance of this sector. And I'm not like simply pointing the finger, but it's actually what can we do greater in order for being recognized. And I think in that sense, CVPA is really leading the role in pushing for this greater voice of investing for impact, not only with this charter, but with a lot of collaborations with different umbrella organizations in order to give a greater voice for all these investors for impact, and more importantly, all these great impact entrepreneurs that are really making a difference to tackle these challenges.
Yes, thank you very much, Luis. I can't agree more with you. We have been accelerating maybe more technologically based projects in the last years, and this year we decided, as you have said, to focus in other sectors like education and employment, and we are trying to prove that there is a place there for investors for impact. So I totally agree with you. And now I would like to ask you, Chris, maybe you can share with us some examples of social purpose organization or startups, because we are talking that we need these investors for impact, but now I am wondering if we have in the other part, in the social sector, some projects that are ready to receive this type of financing. So maybe, I know that you have been working with several projects the last years, and maybe you can share with us some examples before finishing the roundtable.
Sure, thank you, Christina. Yes, I mean, it's true to say that if you look across the spectrum in terms of small and medium-sized social projects, social first projects, You know, there are those that are really out there and looking and ready for investors for impact, but there's still many that aren't. And I've been working recently with a mid-size NGO. It's the Hospital Clown organization in Barcelona. Clowns are very serious people when you come to work with them, and they got help, in fact, from a foundation. First of all, to help them measure impact, which was really important for them. They didn't really know what effect they were having on patients in hospitals, and this foundation helped them with an initial grant to help them measure their impact, knowing that if they could do that, then the healthcare clown organization could go out to other funders and other potential investors with a better idea for what change it was making. But really what happened was that within the NGO itself, that initial investment, that initial grant, changed the mindset, and they started thinking about themselves not as an NGO, but as a social enterprise. And so now they're in the process of changing direction. They've developed a series of new strategies with the help of some consultants, and they're looking to a much more commercial or business-orientated model of operating, which would have them offering services to hospitals in exchange for funding, for finance, and create in that way a truly sustainable organization. So I think these little things that Investors for Impact can do to help organizations to start them on the path of thinking about themselves as social enterprises are really, really important.
Yes, thank you very much. It's good to hear that in the other part, the demand part, we have the same approach. So we are running out of time. Thank you very much, the three of you. And for the audience, I think we have explained a little bit more this concept of Investors for Impact, Venture Philanthropy. The four of us are working hard in the south of Europe to spread this movement. So we will be very pleased if you join us in the next years, because as Luis has said, we think that this is necessary for some sectors that are now with the crisis more needed than ever. So thank you very much again, the three of you, for your time today, and let's keep working.
Thank you, Christina.
Yeah.
Thank you.